Hi, everyone. My name is Amit. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Data People, and I am so excited to have you all here today. And I'm really excited to be joined by Dominick Hahn, the VP of Talent Acquisition at Allianz. Dominick, thank you for being here. And before we get into intros, we'll just give it a few minutes for everyone to sign up. We've already got 82 and counting. I think, Dominick, we might be I'm hoping we can actually accommodate everyone. We upped our Zoom webinar account to keep up with all of this, but you seem to be quite a draw.
Not too bad of a sign, I would say.
Not bad at all. I think people want to know more. While we're waiting for people to come on in, tell us, folks, write in the chat. Tell us where you're from. Where are you calling in from? Last webinar, we've had people from almost every continent. Where are you in? I'm here in New York City. Dominick, you're in Munich?
I'm in Munich. Well, not exactly Munich, a bit outside of Munich, but basically, yes, Munich, Germany. Lovely Bavaria. Best
Look
place
at that.
to be. Of course.
Especially when Germany is winning so comprehensively in the Euros.
Oh yeah. And by the way, have you seen our lovely away shirts? Have you seen them?
I have not seen them.
Amit, you have missed something because we are playing in complete pink and purple, and it looks which obviously has nothing to do with the colors of our flag, but nonetheless, it looks perfect. Yeah, it's just great.
We've got people from everywhere. So we've got lots of Bavaria, we've got Maryland, Green Bay, Kalamazoo, Nairobi, Munich. Oh, a few people that are close to you, Dominick. Grass Valley, fantastic. And so since we are talking about soccer, if you told us where you're from, football, not soccer, my bad, Dominick. Tell us if you're watching the European Championships and who you're supporting. And hopefully it's Germany, because that's what we're rooting for today.
That can be.
It's a big sports weekend. It's also the Cricket World Cup that I'm supporting. And there's a game going on right now. I can't watch it. I don't know. I don't want to know what happens. People, if you're watching it, don't tell me what happens.
But isn't it a crazy summer actually? Because after that we will see Paris 2024. So the Olympic Games are coming up.
You're gonna see the Olympics. That's right.
And not to forget, Allianz is a proud partner of the Olympic and Paralympic movements. So you will see the Allianz sign all over the place.
I love it. Are you going to go the Olympics?
No, but somebody in my team is going. She's leading the HR side of that project, and she's obviously going to Paris. Well,
we're well past 100 folks, and they keep signing up. I think at some point we're going to hit a limit, so people will not be able to join. But we will. This is being recorded, and everyone will get to catch up and follow along. So Dominick, I'm just going to quickly share my screen and we will get going today.
Sure.
Oops. Oh my God. Team, every month, I get to talk to an incredible visionary talent leader about the things that are the hottest topics in recruiting and in HR and people. And today I'm really lucky to be joined with Dominick. He's actually one of the members of our customer advisory board. And, Dominick is, as you can think about it, Dominick and Allianz TA team, it's like they're living in the 23rd century. Like they're so far ahead and we're all just trying to catch up here.
I don't think so, but it's, thanks for saying that.
But what I'm really grateful about is every time we've worked with you, you've got an incredible commitment to both experimentation at Allianz, but also transparency. I think you write, Dominick, every year, one of the most incredible talent reports that's published as part of your annual board reporting that actually talks about the state of your employer brand, of your talent initiatives, of your DE&I initiative. And I think you set the standard for the way companies should be reporting about talent acquisition and people initiatives.
Well, you're basically referring to our people report, which is available on allianz.com. So everybody feel free to download it. It's available. It's public. Nothing to hide from our side. Well, and to be fair, a TA only plays one role in it. Yeah, so it's basically showing the state of human resources, of people and culture across the entire Allianz group. And yeah, I also believe, to be very honest, I have not seen that much comparable stuff outside. I would love, by the way, to see more, just out of selfishness reasons, because then I could better benchmark myself against the others. So everybody feel free to publish as much data as you can.
And if you do publish it, send us some links in the chat. Let us look at it, because this is ultimately, we are also here to learn from each other. But you're right, Dominic, there's not a lot of companies publish these types of people fact books. And they're so incredibly valuable. And I just love that it means that you're sort of working publicly and in the open and giving us a chance to learn from and building a community. Dominic, tell us a little bit about how you even, your journey in recruiting. You've been in a massive organization like Allianz. You've been in a startup as a head of people. You've done everything.
No, not everything, but to come back to the question, well, obviously, when I was a child, yeah, I did not dream of becoming, an HR professional. And yeah, it's true. Yeah? So I actually always want to become a professional gamer. And again, yeah, Amit, we talked about it. I still believe that I can beat everyone on that planet on one specific course of Mario Kart 64. So if anybody is up to the challenge, I will beat everybody. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea for like a TA team building event. We all play this one course of Mario Kart.
Exactly, Amit. Why don't you run the global Mario Kart TA championships?
I am writing that down. Global Mario Kart TA championships. I'm not going to do it because I suck at Mario Kart.
So basically, well, it's I think quite a funny story when I'm not coming from the HR area, and in every meeting where I have to introduce myself, I'm actually saying, hey, I'm working in HR, but I'm not HR. So I studied actually media and communication sciences. And I came to Allianz, and specifically also to HR, during an internship that I did while I was studying. And I then decided, after I graduated, I still decided to go into the comms direction and joined a traineeship program to become a PR expert, basically, in public relations. And then it was quite interesting, because there was one day, and I'm not joking, it really happened. I got 2 calls, one from Allianz and one from BMW, because at both companies I did the internship. And on the very same day, and they asked me to join on a permanent basis. And believe me, Amit, this was the most horrible night of my life, because I actually had to think about, okay, which company should I join now? And I decided to join Allianz because of of 2 reasons, actually. I love the culture. I love the people that were working there. And I also saw that you can have a tremendous impact in HR, because there was a lot to be done. Yeah. So I'm not saying that the state of HR was bad or something like that, but I could see you can do more in HR than what you can do maybe as a communications expert there, right? So
that's right.
This is how I ended actually up in HR, and it never really left me. I was always then involved in rather the technical side of things. So I rolled out in ATS first in Germany, then on a global scale at Allianz, like 10, 11, 12 years ago. So I'm an old man war stories. Yeah. And
ATS installations are like the worst stories.
Oh, it's horrible.
I think people are scarred for years.
It's just simply horrible. What should I say? Yeah. But I have done it now for 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And it never got better. Every time I'm like, I have so many learnings out of the other ones, but it never works. So no, and then I actually, at one point I decided, hey, it's time to leave Allianz. And as you mentioned, I went into a startup, was heading the people and culture team there. Amazing people, really amazing people, amazing product. But I quickly found out that let's say I'm maybe not the guy for a startup. Yeah. So I quickly realized I rather feel myself more comfortable, more my work is, I think, more valuable for a corporate organization. So I actually asked Allianz, hey guys, I'm not super happy at the startup. How does it look like? And and Allianz said, okay, come back.
That's incredible. I mean, and that's like the vision of the world I want to live in, right? Where people get to try and find for themselves in your journey what really works for you. And Allianz is everything.
Exactly. And I really had the cool thing, and I remembered it very clearly when I told my back then boss, when I told her, hey, I'm gonna leave. Yeah. She was asking like, okay, I see in your eyes that I cannot change that decision, right? And I said like, no. And she said, okay, but when it doesn't work out, I promise you that you can come back. And that was the coolest discussion I've ever had in a professional environment, right? So it's awesome. Yeah.
It speaks to the culture. What an incredible culture.
Yeah.
So let's get to the topic at hand. AI. Now you'll notice we haven't called this artificial intelligence. In fact, we call this assistive intelligence. And I think that's partly because, as we work together, Dominic, that's something you've been really key about. When you think about AI, how do we put the human in the driver's seat? How do we make sure that it doesn't overwhelm our creativity, our thoughtfulness, but it automates the most mundane tasks? So I want to ask you, tell me what assistive intelligence or artificial intelligence fundamentally means to you as you started in this journey.
Yeah. I love, by the way, the term of assistive intelligence, because when we talk about artificial intelligence, I think many people are like scared and think about think of iRobot and Will Smith kind of thing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come anyway, right? So we should not be scared. But maybe also now, maybe the communication expert in me speaks. Yeah, I would also not call it artificial, but assistive. I really like that term, by the way. And this reminds me, and we talked about it, Amit, before. It's actually it reminds me of that one quote from that one lady. Now I forgot the name. That said, "Hey, I don't want that AI takes away the fun part. And AI should not take away arts and writing from me. And I am basically left over with washing dishes and doing my laundry, right? It should be exactly the other way around. It should do the laundry and the dishes, and I do basically art and writing. And if we translate that into what does it mean, I think you actually already said it. It's upon us to decide how assistive, how artificially can AI be, in the sense of when we implement a tool with AI, Gen AI capabilities, it's up to us to do the design process and limit the AI. It's up to us. It's nobody forces that stuff upon us, right? It's us. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah, and I would always you always have to ask yourself two things. Where is a human being most valuable? And what are process steps that do not create, obviously, that much value, right? And then you land automatically at process steps that are super boring, that are super administrative, that has nothing to do with a human kind of valuable interaction. And I think for TA, AI is quite, we have so many use cases in TA for AI. Also going forward, I'm actually super excited what will come, because I think what we will see is from branding to sourcing, to selecting, screening, selecting, assessing, to onboarding, to reporting, we will see along the entire value chain the rise of assistive intelligence.
That's exactly right. There's so much mundane manual stuff. It's just it shocked me in this day and age. We want talent acquisition to be everything. We want them to be therapists. We want them to be data scientists. We want them to be, operations folks. And yet so much of their job is doing such manual, mundane things because our systems don't talk to each other and like nothing seems to work.
Yes, I can tell you one thing or two things, Amit. It's interesting that you're mentioning that, because we actually asked our community roughly a year ago, what is the most, well, we didn't say boring, but the most time-consuming, non-valuable, value-adding task that you're doing. And the outcome was very, very clear. It's interview scheduling.
Yeah.
That's one of the most horrible process steps. Yeah. It
Truly
doesn't
horrible.
help anybody. Yeah.
No.
I fully agree with you. And again, that's exactly why I said, check all the steps that do not add any value. Yeah. So
That's
where you as
exactly
a
right.
human being do not add value.
That's exactly right. I want to sort of take you back to the beginning of your AI journey. Was that October, maybe 2022, 2023? Like, especially like, you're working as an
Yeah.
organization, you're
Yeah.
thinking about this really thoughtfully, and then ChatGPT comes out.
Yeah.
And you're Allianz, you're a massive company, you're a financial institution, many parts of your organization are conservative and, security and all of those things. But how do you sort of, when did your especially generative, but how did your AI journey begin, and how did it begin?
Happy to explain that. One thing maybe, Amit, because it just pops into my head, going back to the other thing that you said, it's still in my mind. You said TA, we asked the TA people to have multiple hats on, right? And I think this is so true what you just said. And obviously it doesn't work. Obviously it doesn't work. In our actuarial area, right? Our actuaries, our risk managers, we would not ask them to do 5 jobs at the same time. We would never do that. But in TA, we would do. You are the employer branding specialist. You are the perfect sourcer. You're the perfect psychologist. You're the perfect data analyst and reporting specialist. It's crazy. So that's exactly why we, as a TA function, we have to embrace AI in order to get rid of those roles, in the sense of also reporting. Let an AI do that. Yeah. We recently had a discussion with our heads of TA in our local branches, right? And we were exactly discussing that topic of data. And I told them, hey guys, you have to have that capability, because otherwise we will never ever get to the KPI benchmarks we want to see. So you need to understand your data. And of course, the feedback was, hey, I don't have the time, I don't have the capabilities, it will take too long. And yes, they are right. I think that underlines what you just said. Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to let that out as well.
And we have to sort of get them to be, that's exactly I like that idea, which is that's why I don't think we'll ever get to a place in our organization where we will be able to hire data scientists and specialists within the TA. Very, very few companies can get that specialized. Even sourcing, if you look at the last 2 years, sourcing is becoming a lot less prevalent, and we're looking for more full stack recruiters who can do sourcing rather than have dedicated sourcing teams. But that's where having great tooling and intelligent tooling can allow a TA professional to flex in lots of different ways, in lots of different areas.
Yeah, 100%. And now going basically back to your original question. So when did we start? We started actually, I would say it was 2018-19 already, with a back then action that we not officially, let's say, asked for. So I'm always a fan of asking for, or rather saying sorry than asking for approval. Unfortunately, it has become more and more difficult. So financial institutions are getting more and more regulated, so you have to follow processes, right? I'm actually a fan. I always launch stuff just like that, and then the information security comes around the corner. Dominic, what have you done again? Yeah, I'm like, okay, sorry, I didn't know. No, but back then we actually used the Google Voice Assistant. So we launched a interview preparation skill back then, so you could prepare for a job interview via voice. That was kind of the first little thing that we did. We obviously, with you guys, I think it was end of 2021, early 2022, right? We had the pleasure to start working together with data people, which I really, really enjoy. still going on, partnership still going on. Hashtag commercial.
Hashtag commercial. Thank you for the commercial. You're great partners. You've pushed us to get better with our product over and over and over again with success factors, our integrations, and even some of the features I'm going to show at the end of today. It's just you've pushed our thinking.
Yeah, and maybe to all the colleagues here in the call, it wasn't easy to get it into success factors, not because of data people, but because of success factors and our internal IT, but now we have it, so I'm very happy about it. Well, we also have another tool on the website, which is some sort of forum, I would say, where people can ask questions and real Allianz employees directly respond to the questions. And the AI piece here is that we actually that the tool recognizes similar questions and bundles that in a thread, so that we are not flooded with always the same kind of questions going on. So
that's right.
This is something we have. And of course, one thing we are heavily working on, really heavily working on, I would say maybe more than 50% of my team at the moment, plus a lot of other colleagues. We're rolling out a full AI supported, let's say, ATS suite upon success factors. I'm not disclosing now any names, but it's one of the market leaders, I would say. And so it definitely goes into the direction of optimizing interview scheduling, of matching skills to jobs, CVs to jobs, whatever. So that's right. Is definitely the way we are going. Also content creation wise, it has AI features, which helps us then from a branding point of view. Well, and independently now from TA, we as Allianz, we also rolled out our own ChatGPT instance across the company. So we call it, Allianz GPT, maybe not so innovative, but pretty much bringing it, to the point.
That's right.
I liked it a lot.
Do people use Allianz GPT? I love it. I love the idea of having your own GPT.
Yeah, I think, I don't have any kind of user data at the moment. It's heavily promoted across the group. I'm pretty sure that the majority of colleagues, so we have around 160,000 people, the majority is not aware of it. Yeah, pretty sure. But I think especially when it comes to the HR folks, I think everybody knows it. So I'll give you one concrete use case. So when we recently prepared for our annual general meeting, right? We always have to obviously prepare the board members with all sorts of potential questions that might come and then the correct answer to it. We used our own Allianz GPT instance and let that correct all the text, right? So we just throw it into it and say, hey, make it better. And
that's what it's really good for. Now you got to check for hallucinations, obviously. Like it's got to be really careful. But what I love about, there's two things that GPT-like tools are very, very good at. One is cleaning up stuff. We often think of it as like a great way to write documents, but it's not always. Like, if everyone used GPT to write documents, all of our documents would start to sound really, really similar. Yeah. But it's really good for cleaning up the documents that we need to write. And the second thing I really like about it is summarizing. How do you get it to summarize things and do it in a way that has value? One of the things that we still worry a lot about is guardrails, right? Like it can hallucinate, it can make up things, and you've got to be so careful about that.
Oh, yes.
Now, Rochelle asked a really thoughtful question that I wanted to read out here. What data governance challenges have you solved to optimize for the effectiveness of this? So you've got now quite a lot of AI tools, including data people. How do you deal with data governance?
Rochelle, that's a perfect question. I knew it's going to come. I hate it at the same time because you're hitting a very, very sensitive point. So yes, we as Allianz, as an insurance company, we're heavily regulated. I already said it. So we have to comply with 1,000 different regulations, local laws, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I would say our ops colleagues that are responsible of having an overview of what kind of services / tools we have across the group, they implemented, I would say, a very rigid regime when it comes to that. So what is part of that? Besides, I would say the obvious, stating the obvious, like privacy impact assessments, which is a standard. We now also specifically, because of the rise of Gen AI specifically, we have now also implemented an ethical assessment that we have to run, that we have to do. What is an ethical assessment? Well, it basically tells you, or you assess the risks of the use of AI in the sense of, will it impact the decision making? Will it impact the process in the sense of that we have more bias than before?
That's right.
We disadvantage people, or certain target groups more. So this is actually a new measure that wasn't existing before. And besides that, we have our regular, let's say, risk assessment templates, an Excel sheet of 150,000 lines that we have to do. That's clear.
That vendors like us love filling that out. We just love it.
It's, I cannot imagine anything better than that. Information security, obviously. And maybe that's quite interesting from an operational perspective. When we want to have a new tool, what we do from a governance perspective is we basically apply for it in the sense of going into a specific tool, which is based on ServiceNow, and we register it, let's say, and then automatically all the different assessment steps are triggered, right? And then I go through, obviously I have 1,500 calls with data privacy to explain all the how it works kind of stuff, etc. That's also clear. And then what we have is, for all the assessments I was just talking about, every year we have to do so-called re-attestations. So we have to confirm as a business owner, this is still valid or this has changed, and then if something has changed, we have to do it basically in a limited way again, just to ensure we're always up to date. We have the same thing going on for access rights to tools, right? So also a very rigid regime. So just maybe that gives a bit of a inspiration on how we do it.
That's super helpful, and I completely I'm with your IT and security teams on this one, which is, especially given we know regulation is coming in EU. Regulation for AI has already come to New York City. It's coming in Colorado. We've got to be really, really careful about this. And, it's one of the reasons why when we've implemented AI, one of the things we've been very clear about is we're not putting, I love some of the tools like OpenAI, but not all of our customers are comfortable with sending data out. And so we implement all of that in-house, so we don't ever have to send your data out. We can manage your data very securely.
Yes, 100%. So, also, I think also the governance has changed a lot, especially also with, having software as a service going on and not on demand kind of. So, but I fully agree with you. I mean, what the behavior at Allianz, let's say, or our approach towards security and governance is, maybe you can compare it with that school kid, with that pupil that was sitting in the front row, during a lesson and always said I know the answer. So we try to be even more strict than in this case the European Union actually would force us to do. So I give you an example. So now when we implement that new tool on top of our ATS, what we will do is we will state very, very transparently on the site how the whole algorithm works. Right?
That's right.
We also encourage already now on the website people to use Gen AI for applications.
You actually encourage applicants to use Gen AI.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, for a simple reason, because usually the CVs that you get are horrible. So
they really are.
So no, at the end of the day, Amit, you cannot hold it back anyway. Yeah. So rather encourage them and steer them into the right direction. And by the way, having said that, what I see is, and would love to hear the opinions of others, is we will see the war of the machines going on. You will have the candidates, right, use heavily Gen AI stuff before they apply, maybe even during an interview, the interview, right? And then you have us on the company side that try to select people based on Gen AI, and then let's see who wins that battle. Which machine wins?
Well, my hope is that the machines will sort of sort out some of the, the clunky work. I'll give you an example. Like, you use success factors. A lot of our customers also use like Workday. Sometimes it's like really hard for a candidate to apply to these platforms over and over and over again. It's just hard. And so if we can make that, just like we're trying to make the TA's life easier, TA users' life easier, if we can make the candidate's life easier, it allows us to get to the human part of the question, which is, why is this a great purpose? Like, how is this a great job? And how do we get there? Now, there's a really thoughtful question as well on, can you talk about the ethical assessment?
Yeah.
So you implemented this very heavy AI sort of solution on top of your ATS. What does an ethical assessment for that look like?
Yeah. Well, it's maybe it's not as sexy as you think. Yeah, it's again a simple Excel file. I can't recall now again all the questions that are in there, but you really need to look at it as an Excel file with, I think we had like 30-40 questions in it. With a simple kind of yes, no, or not at all, to some extent, largely kind of options to respond, right? And then you would directly trigger a traffic light system saying, okay, red, yellow, greenish. Yeah, greenish means cool, go ahead. Yeah, that's clear. To the question, we developed it ourselves, so we didn't buy anything off the shelves or something like that. So we developed it ourselves. We have quite a big and also very, very skilled data privacy team. Not just on a group level, but also in our entities locally, and they developed that. Happy to get that colleague that was asking the question in touch. Yeah, no
That's
problem.
great. So Dominick, let's talk a little bit about upskilling, and I want to bring up a couple of examples here as well. So I'm just going to share my screen again. We will get right back into it. So when we think about sort of learning and upskilling, it's really important that we don't just release a bunch of AI tooling, but we actually help our teams understand how to use them. One of the things that we found, there's two really great studies that I wanted to run by this audience. The first is MIT recently did a study, and they basically, it was like a business school study where you had to build an investment thesis, and you had these folks who did a research on a company and built an investment thesis, and they created 4 groups of people. One group that had no AI, one group that had AI but with a little bit of orientation, one group that had AI with some training, and one group that had just AI but no training. And the AI was used was, I think, GPT 3.5. And they found a couple of really interesting use cases. One is the team that had AI with training saw like a 40% performance increase. So that's incredible, right? That you removed a lot of the research, mundane stuff, everything. But the team that had like the GPT but no training did 13% worse than the team that had no AI altogether, because the algorithm would hallucinate and they wouldn't know how to guardrail against it. Does that surprise you?
No. No. So no, not at all. So I mean, at the end of the day, and maybe this is not an official Allianz position, right? I mean, or let me first explain what we're doing in this respect. So there is group-wide, meaning addressing all of our roughly 28,000 people leaders across the company. We have quite strict requirements when it comes to their learning journeys and upskilling courses that they have to do. So, for example, every people leader has to basically do a so-called leadership passport, right? And in order to achieve that, you have to basically do some sort of a specific amount of learning hours that you have to collect. And as part of those learning hours, we, not me obviously, but the learning colleagues, they decide together with the business what kind of topics they should definitely learn. So it's kind of a free, your choice kind of portion. And then from the top coming data, you have to learn. Analytics, you have to learn. Gen AI, you have to learn. You have to do that. Otherwise, you don't get your leadership passport, which is your permission to lead people, right? and I would not recommend to not have that passport. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing is, now going back more into the TA space, we have actually already done this year 2 intensive trainings when it comes to Gen AI. We also encourage everybody to do that. Yeah. But there is no, let's say, clear guidance. It's just a recommendation. But let me add now my very personal opinion about it. You can train as much as you want. As always, in Gen AI is not an exclusion.
Yeah.
If people have to have the right mindset, they need to be open to it. They need to be open to use it. They need to see the value, right?
That's right.
And if you have colleagues that just do not want to do it, yeah, because they feel cozy in their current situation, you can give them 1,000 trainings. It won't help, right?
That's exactly right.
But of course, we have to upskill the colleagues. We're currently working on an intense recruiter training, in the sense of also certification. Most probably will come next year, which means everybody at Allianz that wants to recruit has access to SuccessFactors recruiting, yeah, has to undergo the certification. Otherwise, you're not allowed to recruit. And Gen AI will also play a role in it.
I love that. So it's like a license to hire. You have to have that ability to do it. And a license to lead.
Exactly.
There's a second study that was really fascinating that I wanted to get your take on as well. So Stanford did the study with another, and they did this focus on programmers. And they asked programmers, they gave access to programmers to sort of a tool. It's not GPT, but it was something similar, like a Copilot-like tool. And they found the results were sort of fascinating, that participants who actually had access to the Gen AI tool actually wrote less secure code than those without access.
Yeah.
But they believed it was more secure. Like we humans are sort of fascinating. We're so willing to kind of, like, maybe this is why we have so many religions. We're so willing to just believe that there is this bigger power and like give it the power, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you've been really, one of the things that I've always appreciated is you've had your eyes open about the possibility, but also around guardrails and how critical guardrails are to the process. I mean, I saw there's a Bloomberg study a few months ago where they found that, there's racial bias in some of these AI tools like OpenAI. There's all sorts of hidden sort of biases. How are you is part of your training really making sure that your users kind of understand the risks here?
Very good question. So maybe adding to the point of believing, I think we as human beings, we're just a lazy bunch of people. Yeah, we're just lazy. Yeah. So I think that's
a feature, not a bug.
Sorry?
It's why we've developed it's a feature, not a bug, right? It's why we've developed all of these.
You are right. You're right. But honestly, yeah, the study results are also not super surprising. I see it with myself when I use such tools. I recently used Quillbot actually in order to get a better version of some text, because obviously I'm not a native speaker, and I wanted to have it in a bit more formal English.
That's right.
And I just copy and pasted it, and I was like, is that really good? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and I also didn't cross-check it with a colleague in my team who is Native American. Yeah, but coming back to your point, I think so. Yes, it will play a role in the training for sure, but our approach in general, now independently from that, is always that, at least at the very moment, we don't want that an AI is taking any decision. As you said, so that's our mental guardrail.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it like that. It's a mental guardrail. We don't want that. It's quite interesting because when we're discussing the tools with our data privacy colleagues, they're always like, oh my God, but then this is taking all the decisions. And we're like, no, not at all. I personally want to have the full power of deciding. Yeah. And
that's
now
right.
Going back to what you said, it's just assistive. Yeah, it's an assistant.
That's right.
I take the decision. By the way, we not only are regulated, but we have in many countries super strong workers' councils going on.
Yeah.
And they would never allow that anyway. Yeah. So, but independently now from the workers' councils, it's completely wrong to believe that that we're just leaning back with AI and they do the rest. Yeah, this should not be the scenario.
But you make a really subtle point. You want humans to make the decision, and I like that point. Sometimes in the tooling, though, can that line get blurred? Whether like it feels like we're not making a decision, feels like we're making the decision. It's in our control, but invariably we're ceding poor decision.
Good point. Give you an example. You have a requisition. You get 200 applications, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the average recruiter John Doe doing? He or she will never ever go through 200 CVs, never. So you will basically focus maybe on the first 10, just from a
So that
So
yeah.
From a discrimination point of view, it doesn't even make a difference because you discriminated already without AI. Now, having AI in this process, helping you to select it better, for example, these profiles were matching your JD in a nice way, or whatever it is, or the location was a match, or the experience was a match, blah, 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 blah. This is just another way of filtering. You have filtered anyway before, right?
That's right. And we use, it's basically an algorithm. You are in effect using an algorithm to make a decision.
Exactly.
And you're just not even aware of it. It's just, our default behaviors go there. I love that example. So one of my favorite books about the perils of AI and data is this book called Weapons of Math Destruction. And the author is incredible, and she talks about exactly this. So often we think, oh, it's this complicated algorithm or this complicated AI that's creating bias or inequity or problems. And oftentimes it's something as simple as that. The way we decide to maybe do a quick keyword search on the resume. So we decide to just do like the first 10. And so we have to think about the decision spectrum almost holistically rather than just about like fixating on just the algorithm of a particular tool.
100%. I mean, if we now go very, very far into the future, and maybe I'm not making now any friends within the audience, and maybe this is very provocative at the end of the day, but
no, be provocative, Dominic.
Yeah, in my ideal world, there are no recruiters. Because at the end of the day, from a candidate perspective, what do I want? I want to apply and I want to talk to the manager and maybe the team. I don't want to talk to the recruiter. Yeah. So,
but that doesn't mean that TA doesn't exist. It just means that we have to reimagine what the TA goal is.
And that's not the point. That's not the point.
Yeah.
When I look at our strategic workforce planning data, we already know where we have issues in 5 to 7 years. We already know it.
Yeah.
But we're still scheduling interviews manually, right? Instead of focusing on building the pipelines. So basically going to the people that we need in 7 years. Yeah, going into the schools already, going to the universities.
That's right.
That's our job. Yeah.
Yeah. That is such a great point. In fact, last month, our expert speaker was Manjuri Sinha from OLX. And one of the things they've done at OLX, and it's a great video to watch, they've gotten rid of the idea of talent acquisition versus HR versus DE&I. And now they think of one integrated function called talent success. And instead of thinking about the world as we are acquiring talent, we're not acquiring talent. We are building skills in our org. And those skills can come in lots and lots of different forms.
Yes. Sorry, Amit. I like that you said focus on the skills because isn't that a trend anyway? Yeah, especially now having AI, right? Going away from that hiring for experience, but for skills plus culture. By the way, at least from my perspective, we should never ever forget the cultural piece because you can have let's talk any kind of sport on that planet. If you are the coach of a sports team, you have two options. Either you get the best skilled people in, or you get skilled people in that match. Because otherwise, you have a squad of great people and everybody is an asshole. So, right?
And even if they're not assholes, if you have a soccer team, football team with 11 strikers, you are not going to be the most successful team in the
Exactly.
tournament.
Simple as that. Simple as that. Yeah.
And when we are hiring, we're often thinking of how to hire the best people, not how to construct the best teams.
Exactly.
And that's going to.
No, and you're sorry for interrupting all the time, Amit. Yeah.
This is we're both so excited about this topic.
Yeah, we are, but because one risk that I see, if you focus on, because this is currently going on in the TA space, right? Everybody's like, cool, we have the skills, and then we can match that to the JDs and blah blah blah, and then match the learnings to the skills and whatever, right? So this is basically the current notion. We should not forget that we actually are replicating or neglecting or making it even impossible to support social diversity hiring. Yeah. So because obviously people coming from specific, groups in the society, they will always have an advantage, always. Yeah. So take France.
That's right.
If you have not studied at the top kind of universities, difficult, right?
That's exactly
similar
right.
kind of things in the UK, etc. So that's why I think culture is so important. And the second thing is, we should not limit ourselves in terms of, this is the skill that this person said he or she has, and this is exactly the skill that we need. But you need similar, first of all, similar skills, that are somehow connected to the skill you're actually looking for, one point. And the other point is, you need to ask questions or evaluate if somebody is writing in his or her CV, or maybe you ask, hey, have you done some social work, or have you done this or that, in order to determine, this skill is actually related to this activity in his CV or her CV. So we need that person. And if you simply go for a matching mechanism, you would have lost that person, right?
No, and those matching mechanisms are so poor. I'll give you a really good example. And they can create such huge biases, right? Like, a really common trend in engineering hiring is to focus on people who have GitHub profiles. And you know why? Because statistically, we'll look at it, all these matching algorithms will look at it and be like, there's a very high correlation of successful hires to GitHub profiles. And there is. Yeah. There is. But 95% of the GitHub profiles are men. Have people who have public GitHub profiles are men. A lot of times, people have GitHub profiles, but they're private. So they don't show up because they're bound by their employer. They can't make it public. So we don't see. And so then suddenly the diversity of your talent pool looks like this one group. And you're like, why am I not able to attract diversity? And this happens all over. It happens in finance roles with types of, types of skills we ask for. It happens in sort of, in actuarial roles. It happens all over. True. And it's, because what happens with algorithms is you maximally optimize for one variable. And if you're optimizing for one variable, definitionally, you're going to see problems with other variables.
True. And that's exactly why we still, and maybe for a longer period, we still need us, right?
Yes. Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why we need us, because I don't want to work in, I don't want to come to interview at an organization where it's all just robots and automatons, and I'm not getting to be creative with my colleagues.
100%. Yeah. So
if I don't see a person with a watermelon T-shirt, how am I going to know that I am ready here to be part of a great organization?
Honestly, if you see that T-shirt, you want to join Allianz, don't you?
So I have a last question for you, Dominic, before we sort of wrap up here. And the question is, I want you to think about the evolution of talent organization. I think there's 4 levels, right? The first level of a talent organization is like transaction. Your very basic SLA. A hiring manager needs the role, you fill the role. The second level is standardized.
Yeah.
You start to kind of have a global organization. Everyone's doing work the same way. The third level is data-driven. and you start to kind of like really think about the data, what is the next level beyond that? So I have two questions for you. Where are you on this evolution in your mind? Where do you think Allianz is on this evolution? And what's the next level beyond that?
Well,
beyond data driven?
Very tricky one. Although I immediately have that Deloitte PwC maturity level thing once pager in mind, that everybody knows, I guess. So I think at Allianz, I mean, we are a very heterogeneous company. So that means we have a lot of entities that are legally independent from one another, right? So we're talking about more than 700 legal entities, and that's Allianz, right? Which exactly is horrible from a harmonization perspective. Yeah?
So even standardization is really hot.
It is. And that's why I would say you would see at Allianz all kind of maturity levels. You see in some organizations that are very admin driven, and you see in some organizations on a global scale, when we are talking about tools, I would say, and when we talk about data, I would say we are quite advanced, which is maybe not such a surprise because as an insurance or asset management company, what are you doing? You're working with numbers all the time. We don't produce anything. We produce numbers at the end of the day, right? So so I think the culture of data-driven decisions, or having very, very strict rules around, okay, this is our ambition, and we measure it, and we measure it again and again and again. This is quite common, I would say. So coming back to your question, my ideal scenario is that we have an organization that is coming back now to your term, and we didn't align on it, so that nobody thinks I'm always, we have aligned that now, but I really like it, that we have a TA organization that is assisted by artificial intelligence or assistive intelligence for 100%, and that is focusing purely on the CRM piece, on the candidate relationship management piece. That is my ideal kind of world in which we're living. Maybe the CRM people, the relationship managers are not even HR people, but basically coming from the business. Yeah, maybe the business is doing it themselves with some sort of guidelines. Could also be an option. But having said that, I want, and this is maybe the direction we're already going, we strive to connect better strategic workforce planning data with real recruitment kind of operations. Yeah,
that would be
and that's quite difficult. It's quite difficult, and but we are on the journey. Why is it difficult? Because the way workforce planning is pretty much done, and to make it now maybe more simple than it actually is, the business says, I need those skills and those kind of people in the next couple of years, right?
Yeah.
But 10 minutes later, they raise a different job requisition. So
that's
what they told workforce planning is never what lands on your desk, right?
That's right. That's
and
exactly
bringing
right.
that together, I think, would give any company a huge advantage, because you know exactly what you're looking for. You can prepare for it. You can build your pipelines. You can focus on the conversion, right? And you can do that because you don't need to care about all the admin stuff because it's done by AI, etc. So this is for me the next level. Yeah.
I love it. If I'm hearing it right, it's like, well, we need the next level for TA is to be truly strategic and truly human.
Yeah.
And the only way we do that is having technology assist us in anything that is not strategic and not human.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
I love it. So I just wanted to just give folks on the call just a sneak preview of some of the things that we're thinking about and building here at Data People. So I'm going to share my screen again and leave you with that. Our focus especially when it comes to AI, has been really focused on a few key tenets. How do we do it responsibly? How do we do it where you've got guardrails? So your inclusion, your social responsibility are really, really core, and it's built in. How do we do it in a way that you get to build great, not average? Because we cannot have that much synthetic average content floating around. How do we do it in a way that is truly compliant with your employer brand, with your regulatory requirements, with your data privacy requirements, and how do we do it in a way that's safe? And so Dominic, you've been part of this journey a long time, and hopefully you've seen us live up to these these principles in the way we work. But I showed you the sneak preview last week. I want to show the audience. We're rolling out what we call Data People First Draft. It's using generative AI to write JDs that are in your voice, in your template, compliant and secure. So you can get going right away with it and never have to send your data to anybody else, never have to worry. And the goal isn't to remove the human, but to get you going really quickly so that the human can do what they really do, to make that into a human, beautiful, lovely job post that works for your employer brand and attracts the candidates you deserve to bring in. And hopefully this is something that I'd love to demo. And if folks want to see it, post us in the chat or write to me and we'll set something up. We'll use Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. I just read the one comment in the chat from Evan, and I think it's a good comment because it actually brings us back a bit into reality. Asking, okay, it's a bit difficult to justify doing pipelining and CRM only while you still have to deliver the reality basically. So fully agree, and actually maybe to give you some insights within to Allianz how we are doing it. So we are basically building the plane while we are flying, right? So it's not like you cannot go to the business and say, hey, I stopped working on the recruiting side of things, I now build pipelines and you will see the first hire in 5 years. Of course you can't, yeah, of course. So we have started now the journey on a global scale, yeah. Of course, some of our entities are doing it already locally, but on a global scale, we now have started with tech and data talent segments actually, meaning we are building pipelines via, for example, scholarships. This has actually also been a request from our supervisory board. Yeah. So we have I think pitched for it since years. Yeah. But now the supervisory board came and said like, hey guys, we have the feeling we run into an issue in terms of tech and data talents. What can we do? And we said like, we have the perfect solution for it. Let's do pipelining. Yeah. And they allowed it basically, right? And we didn't get one single cent for it. They didn't give us any money, but we are now together with the entities. We sat down and said like, okay, what can the strategy look like? Who can do now what? Next to the everyday job. Yeah, it's let me be very blunt. So we have to do that next and besides in parallel to what we're doing. But so far, for example, in our pipeline, we have as per yesterday, we have 149 people in our tech and data pipeline for our global roles. And our goal now, as of 2025, is to achieve a 5 to 10% conversion rate. And I think you have to prove, obviously, that it's working. And then we would, this is the way going forward, we would extend that pipeline to other talent segments beyond tech and data. And this is a bit how we are going, yeah, step by step, proving it's working, next talent segment.
Super systematic. I love that tangible way of this is how we can continue to show near-term and long-term investment value in the talent acquisition function.
Yeah.
Dominic, that's a great place to end this. We're right at time. What a fascinating conversation. Like, you're on an incredible journey, and I cannot wait to see assistive intelligence become a core part of every part of Allianz's talent acquisition funnel. So I think we're going to have to do this again in 6 months and check back in on that journey and tell people what we learned, because it's such a dynamic field.
Absolutely. And Amit, so, sorry again that I interrupted you, I think 10 times. Yeah. So sorry for that.
This was the best, one of the best conversations we've had. So Dominic, thank you for your time. This was phenomenal.
You're welcome.
And the audience, thank you for your questions and for participating and staying this whole time. And let's keep this conversation going on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was an absolute pleasure. Have a great week, everyone. Talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.